Thank you, everyone, for joining our workshop today, Hidden Gems in the Contentstack CMS for business users.
All right, so yes, thank you guys for joining us this afternoon. My name is Nick Barron. I'm an all-around nerd, technologist, guy who manages a bunch of nerds and technologists at the company. I'm a senior director within our technical solutions org. So if you've worked with any of our solution architects or our engineering team outside of product, you've worked with the TSO. So really happy to have an opportunity to talk to you all today about some of the features that have kind of get a little lost in the noise sometimes, right? You know, when we're thinking about what makes a CMS useful for business users, it's a lot of the sort of the unsexy things, right? It's looking at some governance enablers and that kind of stuff. So we're going to take a look at some things that will just improve the quality of the editorial life and help business users really just get themselves unblocked.
Very well said, and thrilled to be here as well. My name's Travis. I'm a senior manager of customer success, of course, on the customer success team. I'm responsible for the east side of the US predominantly, although I do have one CSM who's West Coast based, who's here today as well. My team is responsible for making sure that customers get as much value as possible from the Contentstack platform, and ultimately are as successful as possible using the platform. And thank you, Nick, for setting the stage. We'd love to start here with a quote. Sometimes the most powerful CMS features are also the easiest to overlook.
That's a pretty cool quote, Travis. Who said that?
I think that was you, Nick, the Senior Director of Technical Solutions. Second joke, by the way. Still nobody laughed. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's as I kind of said, right? It's some of the things that are going to enable and unblock your teams, right, are the things that don't necessarily make it up to the main stage presentation. So we just wanted to take a look at some of those features that we can use to kind of unblock. And I think also, you know, since we're on with quotes, let's start with random statistics. So 100%, we did it.
100% of what, Nick?
100% of Contentstack customers and users would like to work more efficiently, Travis.
I would certainly agree. We got some applause for that one. Thank you. Yeah, we do have tons of exciting features, and really some of the most commonly overlooked are also the most powerful. So as Nick mentioned, we'd love you to come out of today's session with actionable tips to get more out of the platform, making your work, day-to-day work, just more scalable, more efficient, and overall easier on everybody. That's the intent.
Sounds good.
Let's get started.
All righty. That is, yeah, we're done with slideware, by the way. We're just going to jump right into platform and do a bunch of live demonstrations. And hopefully that doesn't bite me in the backside. Done a bunch of these, and it only breaks about 30% of the time. So I think 70% of the time it works every time. So
that is correct math by my math calculations, yes.
All right.
All right, Nick. So just to start out, you want to set the stage and let us know what we're looking at here? And then I think I'd like to start with a question then after that.
Sure. So what we're going to be looking at today is what we call the Compass Starter app. It's what you can get available from the free trial, right? So you just head to the website, get that spun up. So everything that you guys are going to see today, you can just go and access this right after the session, or if you've got your laptop open and wanted to follow along, please don't do that, because what I'm saying is incredibly important, and you should be paying all of your attention to my jacket. I mean me. So we're gonna start in that environment. I'll switch between two browsers so that you can see sort of the administrator super user view, but then also a more restricted editorial view. So we will be using both Nick Barron and Edna the editor. Super creative.
I like it. All right. Well, Nick, I had a question. I'm on the same editorial team as Edna. I work with her and a few other editors. Frequently, we're working on the same pages, and we just had a question. So the other day, we were thinking, wouldn't it be great if there was a way where you could add a comment to a field on an entry within Contentstack, just so the person who's reviewing after you knows exactly where to look? Because currently we're using Slack for that type of collaboration, and we just have so many Slack channels.
That's awesome.
So many Slack channels.
So many Slack channels. I love it. We need more Slack channels. That's not the solution for working with your coworkers, by the way.
I see some nodding. That's great. Relatable.
Oh, yeah, you guys, too many Slack channels, Teams channels, or text channels, whatever you've got, yes. How many of you guys are editors, just out of curiosity before we jump into things?
We have four, six, 8. Okay? Nobody on
How
this
many of
side,
you
by
are
the way,
not
which is
editors?
interesting.
I want to see if we get a total here.
Okay.
Okay, and so about a third of you are just confused. Perfect. That's where we like to start. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fire up a new entry, just a new article. We're going to keep this as generic and cross-discipline as possible. I am logged in, as you can see up there. Yeah, the font's, that's fine. You all can see, or maybe you can, I don't know. I am signed in as Edna, the editor, so we're just going to create some content here about great fine dining in Chicago. And let's create some content. You know what? I don't actually like typing because Miss Petrowski in second grade is very disappointed in my handwriting, and my typing isn't any better. So write me 3 paragraphs about fine dining in Chicago. My spelling is also atrocious, but the good news is AI doesn't care. So we're just gonna use a little bit of our AI features, and that's not part of the hidden gems, right? I'm sure you guys are all aware that we've got these things in here that'll help you kind of write your own content or generate some new content. I wasn't happy with that version, so I click a button, it starts generating again, gives me the ability to approve or deny that. So that's just an extra bonus thing to take a look at. But Travis's question originally was really about how do we collaborate a little bit better? How can we have a comment or leave a discussion? Maybe we're looking here at the title and look, you're going to see a lot of spelling mistakes. Please do not judge me. It's honestly one of the most embarrassing things. So let's go ahead and let's save our content. Oh, title is not. How is that title not unique? I've made that same mistake twice.
I gotta lean in for that one.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great fine dining in Chicago. Let's go ahead and save that page. Title is still not unique. I told you 30%.
We have our first error of the live demo. Everyone, round of applause for Nick. Thank you.
Yes, awesome. There we go. It's saved with the title of title. Chicago food stuff. There we go. Can't make that mistake. Well, all I wanted to show you is that I can simply click on this little icon and I can start adding comments, right? And that would be useful if I just wanted to leave a cookie crumb trail for other editors to come across and find. But more importantly than that, I can say something like @Travis and @Nick Barron, my other user that we'll be able to see. Fix this awful title, you fools. All right, it's good to be actively aggressive and not passively aggressive with your coworkers, by the way. Also, I see some folks standing in the front. We've got plenty of room up front in the class, so feel free to come on down. There are seats still available up here. There's 4 perfect, beautiful seats.
And we have note takers, and that is okay too.
That's totally fine. So that's a nice, easy way for me to be able to do things like create comments. And one of the places that that's going to show up, since I tagged myself as Nick Barron, I have my little notifications here. And depending on your user settings, you can set that to email yourself. The whole idea here is that what I don't want to have to do is have all those Slack communications that say go back and forth, here's a thing, go do that, go do this. I should be able to just come into my content management platform and kind of be told where to go, right? If someone has work for me to do, I shouldn't have to find it, is kind of the key there.
Excellent point. And along with the notification, the UI, I also did receive an email. I heard it on my phone behind the stage here, so that is correct. If you tag somebody to take an action, then they will get an alert and there'll be no missing it.
Love it.
A follow-up question. What if I did want to add a comment, but not just to a field, but to a specific word or phrase within that field? Maybe the granular detail of that word or phrase is relevant to what I want the person reviewing to look at. Any options there?
What a great question, Travis. Yes, of course we can have more kind of on-point commenting, right? So you saw up there for something like a title field, that's fine. It's a nice little simple text field. But if I had, paragraphs and paragraphs of content with images and all that kind of stuff, and I might want someone to come in here and just say, the atmosphere in fine dining is just as important as the food. I can come in here and hover over and just add a comment directly, even within the rich text editor, within any of the different text fields. We can get a hyper-specific comment that we can then do the same thing, and I can tag Nick. This is trash. Do better. You make me sad. Okay. Well, self-deprecating humor never hurt anybody except my emotional state after this event, so Yeah, so that's a great way to be able to also not just direct people to the content entry that they need, but you don't want to spend time looking through a big complex entry trying to find where you can actually add value. It's much better if your coworkers can help you get to where you need to. This is specifically useful for things like if we're going through a legal review and I need someone like my legal team to pay attention to a paragraph that I might think is kind of crossing a line, so I can just direct them to the thing. You know, I don't know if you guys, maybe the third of you who don't know why you're here are in the legal team, but working with legal teams, their time is always constricted. So being able to just reduce the amount of time people spend within the CMS, I know weird to hear that from the vendor, but we all have other things that we need to get back to as well. So being able to provide people that sort of point that they need to go interact with is really helpful. And again, that all shows up in your task list, your notifications. We can set things like automations to send you a Slack or a Teams message every time somebody tags you. So that can totally be a thing if you really wanted that to be just dinging all the time.
Excellent point.
Question? Sure, great question, and I'll repeat that for the sake of all of you in camera land that are going to watch this later, or now. I guess you're watching it now. That's how time works. The question was, is this feature available out of the box, or is this part of some preview or release feature? I didn't hear the second half of that, but the great news is I only needed to hear the first half because this is just out of the box for everybody. If you're a Contentstack user, you have access to these capabilities. Important to note, I'm showing you things that you all have access to today.
And that's by design. We want that, yes.
Yeah, these are things that you can get going with immediately. Back of the room question. So great question. The question was, we have something called preview sharing, where I can send a link out to someone who is not a Contentstack user, and they can take a look at a page before it goes live. And the question is, can I tag those people here? And the answer, unfortunately, at the moment is no. If they don't have a Contentstack user, so the idea would be, give them a Contentstack account, and then just give them very little, almost no permissions, and then you can tag them in things to highlight specific things that you're looking at. Not if they don't have a Contentstack account. You're welcome.
Yeah, good questions. Love the questions.
Sure.
Quick follow-up to the fact that's available for everyone. Does it matter how the rich text editor is set up? Like if I'm just looking at it, I don't see it as a highlight text function, but I do have the comment box. Is that just something that doesn't have to?
Yeah, it should be enabled by default unless they had configured something differently. We can take a look at that. There's just a question about whether or not that's appearing in a specific instance. Yeah, I'm happy to look at that and debug it afterwards. Yeah.
That's basically my question. Is for those of us who might have been elected to it's not turned on, who we
Yes, customer success conversation.
The question was, if we don't see these features, who should we chase down? And that would be your lovely, local, reliable customer success manager. So Travis and his team would be more than happy to get those things enabled if they're not flagged on from a legacy perspective. They should be available in any JSON RTE example. So if you're using the old HTML rich text field, it might not be appearing for that reason.
And you know what, as I'm thinking about it, we do have some nuance here. So inline commenting is available to everybody. I believe that comments and discussion was part of the business enablement package, if I'm not mistaken.
Sounds good. You sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yes, so want to clarify that, yes, comments and discussion, business enablement package, inline commenting, the second feature you saw, that is base license, all included. Let me know if that makes sense. Yes, yes.
Yeah, so the question was, if we're doing preview sharing and you give somebody one link, will they basically be able to browse around to the rest of the site in preview mode? And that is configurable, so yes, you would be able to. And in fact, you can have a whole preview version of your site as well, that typically you can have that set up so that only internal users of your company can access it. So even without having to use that preview sharing capability, you can just have an environment that no one in the outside world has access to that's restricted to accounts internally. That would probably be the better suggestion there. That way it's a like-for-like match of what they would see in the real world.
Very good. Any other questions at this point?
Thanks for being interactive,
yes.
people. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, speaking of collaboration, one of our common debates on the team is how we organize our pages. So I know our technical team uses a feature called tags, something to do with the Contentstack APIs, but it would be great if we editors had something we could use to stay organized on the pages we are working on. And I'll mention, too, we're always thinking of our structure in terms of menus, right? Because that's how customers are navigating our website and finding the pages they're looking for. So with that in mind, is there anything we can do in terms of content organization for editors?
Absolutely. Another great question from this guy. It's like he's teeing me up for success. I love it. Yeah, so one of the things that people struggle with sometimes when they're transitioning away from more traditional or legacy systems is you usually have a folder structure. And within that folder structure, you might have pages. Most composable platforms have shied away from that folder structure because it's very limiting. It's very one-to-one. So if we think about being able to organize things in a one-to-many perspective, the first kind of organizational structure that comes to mind for a lot of folks is taxonomies, right? A hierarchical way of classifying information. Very, very exciting words there. But it basically just means a list of things that this content relates to. So if I come here and look at my regional taxonomy, for instance, I can tab out here and I can say, where does this content belong? Which region is this important for? This is going to give me a few different options in terms of maybe this is going to empower my faceting and filtering within my search, right? That's a very common place to see taxonomies represented so that you can narrow down the results. So the good news is we can use that internally. But what we'll see here is, I only have LATAM, East Coast, and West Coast, and fine Chicago food stuff feels like it might not match there. So if we have some elevated permissions, we can just come over here into the settings and hit up our taxonomy. And I'll just show you guys how easy it is to just add a new node, as they're called. So within North America, let's say that I wanted to add a child term, and I can come in here and say Central Coast, since I'm using coast for, no, I'm just kidding. I'm not that funny. Although Mexicoast would be pretty fun.
Second error of the demo, looked like.
So maybe Central Coast is the way.
Let's try
There
it.
we go.
There we go.
I already have one called Central somewhere. Oh, you know what? If we look at LATAM, I changed it before the demo. I thought I was being clever. If you look at the ID for it, it still says Central. So that, you can't blame on the product, just a poor demonstration preparation. So now that we've got the Central Coast, which is a wild concept and idea, let's just go ahead and refresh this page. And now we'll see under region, just that quick, I can come in here and tag this, as Central Coast. So nice, easy way to do that. I can also come down here and do things like set a topic for, let's say, food and drink. I don't think this has to do with sports or spots. I am terrible typing. Must see spots or sports. Thank you for reading for me. I honestly appreciate that. Yeah, so that's a nice, easy way to be able to categorize my content, right? Now it's easier for me to find. It's easier for my customers to find. I can even take something like a taxonomy and use that to power a mega menu, right? So I can be very selective about which content entries have access to that taxonomy. You saw in this case, I actually had 3 taxonomies set up, but my articles only get access to 2 of those. So you can pick and choose where these taxonomies show up and how they're used. Now, the great news is I don't need a developer. We'll get to the question in just a second. I don't need a developer to make this useful. If I wanted to on the front end, right, if I'm going to change some code, I can do it. I'm a recovering developer, but I wouldn't trust me to go write some code either. Yeah, it's been a hot minute since I've been able to write code that didn't error out. I can't even read sometimes. So, but we will show you guys how you can actually make use of this in the back end. And a question.
My question is, if someone says Central Coast, that doesn't make sense, I want to change it to Midwest. They changed it here, but you've already tagged content. Does the content get automatically retagged?
Correct. So great question. And just to repeat again for our friends out there in camera land, if you change the name of a term, it doesn't matter because as we saw, there's an ID that sits behind that. So you can change those things and you won't have to reassociate any of your taxonomies. So again, just to recap real quick, it's a good way to organize your content. It's a good way to allow your content to be searchable, and it's a good way to facet and filter on the front end. It's also great for doing things like recommendations. If I'm showing an article of hot spots to eat in Chicago, and I have a bunch of other content tagged with, I guess in this case, Central Coast and food, then that makes for a very easy way for the front end to say, hey, give me other things that have to do with food in the Central Coast. I really should have fixed that typo. This is getting a little ridiculous. Yeah.
No worries at all. Hey, what if we had a taxonomy we were actually managing in something like a PIM already, a third-party taxonomy?
Oh, great question. We're an API-first platform, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you've heard that yet, but if you have a taxonomy in any other system like a PIM, that's typically where if you're a commerce vendor, that's your golden record. That's your source of truth. There's also plenty of third-party taxonomy tools out there. You can synchronize those taxonomies into Contentstack. So that's where you would need to call up a developer to kind of do that, but it's very simple, right? That's one of the benefits of a headless API-first platform is it's very easy to do. Anything I can do in the back end, a developer can do with a line of code. We use our own APIs to build our back end, which is pretty cool.
I had no idea, and I really should come to these conferences more often.
You should.
So far, we've just been using keyword search, and I feel like we could be searching in more robust terms on our editorial team. Is there any way we can search on taxonomies?
Travis, you're teeing me up again, buddy. Yes. So let's go ahead and navigate over to our entry view, right? And so if I'm still Edna, that's right. I'm Edna the editor. If I wanted to go through, I've got these popular views in here that I can use to filter, but if I have hundreds of thousands or millions of content entries like some of our customers do, it's very useful for me to be able to create a view of content that matters to me. Right? Edna does not care about managing our landing pages, our product pages, or any of that. She only cares, as our food blogger, about managing a particular set of articles. So if we go to our advanced search, I can come in here and I can filter and search by a whole bunch of things. So let's go ahead, and Edna only cares about articles, and in particular, we can come down here and look at taxonomy term, and if that matches within our region, within North America, the Central Coast, and we're just going to make her hyper-specific here. She is a food blogger only in Chicago. So the topic is also not going to be must-see sports, but also food and drink. When we search, no surprise, there's only the one piece of content since we just created one of those taxonomy terms. It'd be really weird if there was more showing up there. But now that I've got this search, I can actually save this, right? So I can come up here where it says base entries, and I can save this as a new view. My articles to own, or something. Put in whatever title you want. You can be more creative than me. Now over here on the left-hand side, we see my articles to own. So instead of searching and navigating all the time to try to find that, I can just come right to the saved view and I will see a list of all of the content that I need to view. There's a whole bunch of options in this advanced search. You could set these up to look at things like workflow stages, right? So in that example of being someone who's a legal approver, just show me the content that's waiting for legal. I don't want to sit there and look at anything else, right? Maybe it's regional, maybe it's by topic, maybe it's by content type, maybe it's by workflow stage. There's a whole bunch of things that we saw in here in this advanced search that I can come in and key off of. And once you have selected things like the content type, you can also then get more granular and even look at individual fields and use that as a way of filtering. So however you've set up your content already, there's going to be a way to narrow those down. And now you've got your own personal view that only you can use, see, and love.
So I heard you mention something there. We can search on a workflow, and I'm curious to know what is a workflow, because to me, a workflow is when I Slack Dave to review an entry, he Slacks me back and says, hey, actually, I'm not sure what entry you're talking about. I Slack him back and I say it's a 2025 green mountain bike. He Slacks me back and says, actually, Jill needs to review that first.
You've got to stop waking up at 5 in the morning and reading your Slacks. Yes, there's a better way than whatever he was just going on about. But before we do that, I just want to show you, we can also share these saved views. I forgot to mention that. So I can share this out either to another CMS user just by coming in here and saying Travis if I wanted to flag and tag him. And now you can see a little icon with two little happy faces. I don't know, they don't have mouths, so I don't know if they're a face. Are you a face if you don't have a mouth? I don't know.
It's a good question.
Maybe someday we'll find the answer. These are the things that keep me up at night, not Slack. Anyways, you guys wanted to hear about workflow, I would assume. Workflows are a fantastic way to actually apply governance and a flow that makes sense without having to Slack and send links and do all these things, right? So if we come in here into workflows, let's just take a look at one that exists. And in fact, we have a workflow set up for our articles. And let's just come down. You can do things like choose which branches that applies to, which content types that applies to. So you can have different workflows for different types of content as well. So for things like your homepage, you might want a very robust workflow. So a guy in a purple suit doesn't come up and make a bunch of typos all over your homepage, ruining your brand, and then you get indexed by a bunch of search engines, and then you get fired and you end up working at a convention. So what that might look like if we scroll down a little bit is, you can see here that we've got, if you can see through Travis.
Travis's big head.
Travis, you do have a big head. I said that. We were comparing hat sizes. Mine's bigger. You can see that we've got a draft stage, right? So that's where you start writing your content, and then that can move on to different stages. And these stages actually allow me as the workflow designer to choose what they can go to next. And what I mean by that is if this is ready for review and somebody's reviewing it, I can then send this either to ready for translation, or I can skip that step and go straight to legal review. So you can make these as restrictive or as open as you want. So we support branching workflows, linear workflows. We can apply additional business rules and logic in here. All of these workflow stages are also available as an action within our Automate platform. And what that means is whenever something gets to, let's say, legal review, I might actually say, okay, send them a Slack, send them an email, send them all the different communication channels, because legal doesn't live in Contentstack, right? So this is gonna pull them into the platform. So it's a great accessible point to also be able to key off other things happening. Go ahead.
Is this an example of a multi-I rule? Because I know in our team it's really important that the same person who's going ahead and approving an entry isn't the same person who created it, although it is quicker.
Yes, we can adhere to things like what I think it's generally called the 4 eyes principle, which as someone who wears glasses, I dislike that term. But it does require, let's say, 2 different people from the same group to be able to get eyes on something, and it can't be the same person. Simply put, I can't publish my own content. Even if Travis and I are in the same group, he's gonna have to go and approve it so that I can't kind of skirt that process. Now, what does that look like from an editorial perspective? How much additional weight does this add to the day? Not much. I just come here, and from my workflow stage, I just choose where I want that to go next, right? When it's draft, we saw it can only go to ready for review, so that's why everything else is grayed out. I do have the permissions to just kind of do this quickly, so you don't have to watch me switch from one account to another account. I used to do that in demos, and it's a travesty. A travesty?
Yes.
That was not planned. Yeah, I know. That dad joke inside me is very happy. So here we can see that I can skip over ready for translation if I want to, which would actually tie off into my translation provider and queue up an automated translation engine in the background as well. But I can skip right over to legal approval. And there's a bunch of things that I cannot do. Like if I come here and I say I want to publish it, well, first off, I don't have an image because I'm a very bad content editor. So let's just pick the one that has food in the title. I'm sure that's appropriate, hopefully. Now when I come here, if I want to publish directly to production, should Edna, the editor, be able to publish to production without going through a legal approval? Travis, the answer is?
Let's ask the audience. I'm seeing heads shaking no. I think the answer's no.
The answer is yes. No, I'm just kidding. Of course it's no. And you can see down here that there is a publish rule that is blocking me from being able to send that out to be published. So there's another thing kind of attached to workflows called publish rules that help you automatically, once something has hit a particular workflow stage, send that over to the production environment. It keeps editors off of the prod data and just keeps them managing things on a staging or preview environment. And then that will stop them from publishing until something has been met, and then it takes that and moves it along for us. Even if I were to try to publish this, let's say later, if I thought I was being sneaky, oh, it'll publish next week. Does that help? No, I still can't get around it. It's a hard rule in the system.
Excellent. Well, I'm really glad to know those entries are going through proper approvals before getting published. Another question, what if we wanted to publish a whole bunch of stuff in the future? So say 50 pages at once, publish this Saturday. And I also should clarify, right now the alternative is we're using Google Calendar.
Set your alarm clock on a Saturday, get up for that product release and hit that publish button, buddy. No.
So right now we are using Google Calendar in all seriousness. We're determining what's getting published, who's publishing it, who approved it, all that good stuff in good old trusty Google Calendar.
I'm very sad for you. That's terribly inappropriate. Google Calendar is great for many things, but using that as a extension of your workflow for your content is not. Another thing to point out, I can't change the workflow stage because I'm not in legal. Edna does not have the rights to do that. So just so you can see how sort of granular those kind of permissions go. But if we did want to do things like get a bunch of content going out all in one big batch, what we're gonna have is we're gonna have something called releases. Releases are basically just a bucket of data. right? So it is just a container. I like Bucket. Bucket sounds fun. It's just a bucket of all of your content, your assets, and anything that's associated with it. So you can see here I've got a release for Black Friday that's scheduled to go live sometime in November. I've got one for the winter holidays. So I can just queue all these things up, then I can go on vacation, and I know that all of my content is gonna go live at the right time, and I don't have to have these big kind of, published days where we all sit there and do the same thing. Now, if I want to add something to a release, it's just as easy if I had the permissions to do so. So let's go ahead and just go straight to ready to publish. Look at that demo magic. Oh, here you can see Edna's working on this this title as well. So that's another kind of hidden thing that if you're in a piece of content, you can see if somebody else is in there and where their cursor is and what they're actually working on. So that's pretty cool. But also what I can do is I can simply come down here and say, I want to add this to release. Then I'm going to select the release I want. The only one that isn't already set to deploy is my Chicago launch. Look at that. It's like it was intentional. We'll come in there and we'll add that in just the English language because I hardly speak one language, let alone more than one. That's now in the release. When that bucket goes live, this beautiful article that we have now collectively written as a group will go live with that. And I don't have to worry about it anymore, right? And that can be a part of that workflow process as well. So once I've done my job, I can happily walk away from this and everything's just gonna do what it needs to do.
Excellent. Could you go back to the place where you went ahead and scheduled that release out?
Sure.
So I'm seeing, it looks like there's a ton of content there. And I'm just thinking it's going to be a bit difficult for us to imagine what our website's going to look like once we do publish 50 different pages.
Well, why don't you open up all 35 records that are in this release and look at each one of them individually in a form editor and then figure out how your website's going to look.
I'd really like to not do that.
Cool, then let's hit this giant preview button at the top of the page. This seems a little bit easier than doing work. So yeah, I'm just going to click this preview button, and this is going to load up what's called our timeline release view. This is what my website will look like on December 1st. We will be talking about the Galapagos Islands, right? It's a good time to want to get out. I live in New Hampshire, so around December would be a great time to tell me to go anywhere that wasn't cold. If we look at the website today, we just click on that on our little timeline view, we can see that we're talking about exploring the canals of Amsterdam. So within the ability to not only have releases, I can also do things like get a kind of a little time traveler going on here, and I can go out and I can see things at different points in time. This, as an editor or a marketer, gives me 100% certainty that this is what my homepage or my landing page or that key page as a part of a big product launch or an event is all buttoned up before I go. And again, I can take vacation whenever I want now.
Love it.
Me too.
We covered a ton of information the past 35 minutes, roughly. Where would I go to learn more if I needed help on, say, workflows or releases?
AskJeeves.com. Any of you that laughed, that you just signaled how old you are. You got tricked. No.
I think they're now ask.com, correct? They rebranded? Jeeves went away.
Nerd. If we come up here and we click the little help icon at the top of our screen, we get access to the new and improved Contentstack Help Center. So this is just something that is constantly getting iterated on and improving over time. I can come in here and I can, look at this. It's even asking me if I want to read content about timeline. It's like it knows where I am.
So it is context sensitive. I can go to a page and it kind of knows what I'm looking for.
Look, Travis, I think we can all agree that if content is king, context is queen, and it's time for a new crown.
I actually have no comeback to that one.
That's good. So yeah, for example, if I come here and I look at entries, right, it's going to start talking about entry, how do I import entries, how do I view collaborators, et cetera, et cetera. So it provides meaningful content to me based on who I am, what roles I have, and where in the platform I am. So it's pretty intelligent along those lines. You can see here it's going to deep link me to things like my documentation, the ability to leave feedback. This is a great way, if you ever have feedback you want to get directly in front of our product team, click leave feedback. Obviously click the big heart emoji eyes. And then you're going to get the option of either capturing, doing like a little screen capture of wherever you are. And remember, the help is available anywhere, so you can load this up on any page. Take a screen cap, scribble some notes on there. That goes directly to our product and engineering team. Next to that, you also have a button to record your screen share. So if you're seeing a weird bug or some sort of behavior you're not anticipating, you can just record that and send that over. And that will get logged as a bug, and we'll go get that fixed. And since we know who you are when you're logged in, That's creepy. I never like saying we know who you are. Just a weird sentence. But then we'll be able to give you updates on that bug. We'll let you know if it's been fixed, et cetera, or if you're just using the platform wrong. That does happen from time. Not anybody in this room, obviously. It'd be somebody through the camera that would make a mistake.
And what if I wanted to live help?
Oh, yeah. Live help. Just click chat with support, and then you will be directed to talk to our robot. And everybody wants to talk to an AI robot, right? No. Well, you have that option, and it's actually a really powerful and intelligent bot. But right there at the bottom, talk to a live agent. You don't have to hit 0. You don't have to scream operator at your phone. This isn't a phone, but you don't have to type operator in caps, I guess would be the equivalent. You can just get directed to somebody, and they will respond to you on average within about 90 seconds. And that is an actual human being on the other end of a computer who, if you have a hard problem or a hard question, they will just get onto a screen share with you and talk to you as if you were also a human and not a robot. So stay human, people.
Anything else about the Help Center we should know?
I feel like you're trying to lead me on to something there. Yes, Academy. Great.
There we go.
This is also a wonderful way to bridge a direct connection into the Contentstack Academy. It's our kind of learning platform. We've got tons of videos. There's 2 different tracks in there, one for nerds and then one for business folks. So you can go in and you can see all the ticks and trips.
I know what you meant.
All right, good enough. You can go in there, you can look at stuff that makes your day better and makes your life as an editor easier, and you can uncover some kind of hidden features. Also, if I am on something like the dashboard, this will direct me to what we call our Pulse. It's a great thing that our team puts out that just gives you recaps of all of kind of the cool features and things that are coming out on the platform, again, that you all already have access to.
Very well said. Well, I think we've covered so much in this session. I think it's time to do a little recap and some Q&A.
Does that mean we get to go back into slideware?
I think it does.
People love slides.
And you're going to want to hit the next slide about 6 times, I think.
Beep. Beep. That's 2.
Oh, that's too far. Okay, sorry.
He said 6, and it was 1.
Yeah, sorry. All right. Well, talking about hidden gems in summary view, the point of today's session, as you saw, was to show you all the features that are available in the platform, intended for business users, that have been around for quite a while at this point and are really, really useful, and dare we say, maybe underused, depending upon when you implemented, what your initial goals were. These are things, again, that you may want to revisit if you would like to, if there is a good reason to, based off what you've seen here today. We hope there is. So inline commenting, of course, that was the first thing. Or maybe the second thing we covered, since we've shuffled our slide deck a bit, but that enables real-time collaboration on specific words or phrases within a field. Nick, what would you say the benefit there is?
Saving time, right? There's nothing worse than having to navigate around in software, right? Yep, I'm a vendor and I just said that. I don't want to spend my time in our software and other people's software. So if I can get to the choo-choo, as my kids would say, quicker, then it's a win for all of us.
For a lot of us, yep, software is a destination, or rather a journey, not to destination, right? We want to get to the destination using the software as the journey. There's the analogy, thank you.
You're welcome.
Comments and discussion, that enables real-time collaboration directly on fields within an entry. Nick, I'm going to catch you. Oh, I didn't catch you in time. All right, what's the benefit there?
Ditto to what I just said. Again, it's just another way for you to be notified within the application, right? And if you want to keep all of your content editing tasks within the editorial interface, right? That's just queuing up in that little notification section you saw. There's also tasks within the platform. You can assign tasks to other people. We didn't actually cover that, probably could have. And then you can see there's a whole list of all of the tasks that you have. So instead of sitting there and waiting for Slack messages, you can just say, okay, it's 9 a.m. time to start my editorial experience. And you go in and you see a list of all the things that people have tagged you in, right? So instead of being reactive to third-party tools, you can just go into the system of record and find all the things that other people have deemed your problem, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds right. Taxonomy, that allows you to, of course, categorize content in a very structured and very hierarchical way.
Yeah, so I mean, it allows you to filter and to search within the platform. I think without a developer, that's one of the easiest things that you guys can just go and implement. It's very easy, it's very straightforward. Not a big chance of making a mistake that's gonna cause any harm to anybody, but it allows you to organize your content in a better and more meaningful way. Also, being able to do things like synchronizing the information out of your taxonomy engine into your content repository means that there is now parity between your different systems of record. And parity between systems of record allows us nerds to do really creative things like suggested results or related content and articles and products and all those kind of things as well. So there's a ton of technical capabilities that sit behind taxonomy, but first and foremost, it needs to work for you all on the editorial and business side of things to make it something that's actually useful.
Well said.
Thanks.
We covered Save Search, of course, allows you to quickly access and reuse, most importantly, customized search criteria, so queries, filters, view settings. It's great if you have access to those and you are using those. It's even better if you find something that works and your entire team makes use of it. Any other benefit you'd like to highlight there?
Yeah, I think one thing that we barely brushed over is if you're setting up new user accounts or new editors, you can create them or share with them a bunch of saved searches so that you can set new team members up for success and not confusion.
Excellent. We covered workflows. That, of course, organizes the process by which you're creating content, reviewing content, approving content. You may have different teams involved there. Any other benefit you'd like to leave our audience with in regard to workflows?
Yeah, idiots like me who can't spell can't screw up your homepage. Big win. It happens more often than I think any of us would actually like to admit out loud. But by being able to apply standard business process and governance to these kind of things, not only allows the right people to be interacting at the right time, right? I don't need legal reviewing something that marketing hasn't approved first. Right, there's an order of operations, and maybe it's different at your organization. Maybe you want legal to look at it before marketing. That's fine. It's customizable. You can even drag and drop those things to reorder them and change them around. So workflows are extensible. Developers can do cool things with them when they happen. The Automate platform is intrinsically aware of them as well. So yeah, lots of benefits, and I think we can all agree. I mean, agreeing about process is never actually easy. Let's not do that.
You got it. All right. Releases and publish queue is the final thing we covered. And releases, of course, allow you to bundle and schedule multiple items for release at the same time, which definitely beats waiting on a Sunday, waking up early, and then doing it all then.
Yeah, and I think more on top of that, right, being able to visualize this is what my digital property will look like. And being able to say with certainty in the future, unless somebody changes something along the way, this is what we have. In fact, you can even lock that release so that people can't make changes to it. So you can set it, and you know on that date all of those things are going live. It's going to bust all the caching and purge all the caching within Contentstack, and that will be the experience that all of your end users actually get to see.
And on that bombshell, that is all we had for today. Thank you for tuning in and giving us 40 minutes of your time, and we are happy to hear any questions you have. Thank you.
Yeah. Give it up for us.
We got a question.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of the birth of the release of the early to set like you get rid of a product. And someone might say we need to might have four different things.
Yeah, so the question is, how do you kind of reverse a release? So if we have something like a product that no longer exists, how do we find all the places that exists and removes it? There's a few different tactics that you can take there, right? So being able to, if that product is referenced as a reference field, you can actually just do an advanced search for anything that points to that reference field. So you can say, hey, for anything that matches this product, give me a list of it. Now you can add all of that just by clicking on the left-hand side, the checkboxes, add that to a release, then unpublish. So releases can both publish content, but also unpublish. So I might say, okay, cool, I want this release to go live for my Black Friday weekend, but then on Cyber Monday, I need that to unpublish and my next release goes live. So you can just have that seamless transition of content over and over again. But yeah, if something gets removed, you can absolutely find anything that references that, add that into a release, and then unpublish all of that at the same time. Great question.
All right, I am seeing the get off stage cue from off stage, so I think we are done. You're welcome to come find us with any additional questions. We are more than happy to help. Once again, thank you, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks, folks.